Welcome to the People Down South podcast. We are not going to waste any time today and going to jump right into the first part of our interview that we did with Bradley Jordan of Peachtree Entertainment. And as always, I'm Mark, and my best friend Chris and I started this podcast with the intention of highlighting inspiring individuals, having great conversations, and hopefully learning something in the process. We hope you all enjoy. Let's go.
Welcome to the People Down South.
To the people down south.
Welcome 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 to the people down
Welcome
south.
to the people down south.
Podcast.
Podcast. Hello, my fellow Americans. Hey, everybody.
All right. Hang it, Bobby.
Hosted by Mark and Chris.
Today on the People Down South podcast, we have an individual who I am very excited to speak with. He's been a man behind the scenes that had a tremendous impact on the country music scene, especially in Georgia.
For years, he ran an incredible bar in the Buckhead neighborhood of Atlanta that was known for booking up-and-coming country acts. You may have heard some of these guys like Zach Brown, Luke Bryan, Craig Campbell, Brantley Gilbert, Florida Georgia Line, Cole Swindell, Chase Rice, and Sam Hunt.
But he didn't just book acts. He was a real influencer and gave these artists a platform and connections within the music industry. Today, he runs a country entertainment company called Peachtree Entertainment.
He's been helping new talent get discovered with this new venture. We're talking about artists like John Langston, Jordan Rager, Travis Denning, Joe Fortner, Muscadine Bloodline, and Riley Green.
And Chris, you really cannot forget Luke Combs. I believe it was he who hooked Luke up with his manager.
Yeah, that's a big one. We were talking before this about how his career is just taking off like a rocket ship.
So without further ado, we welcome Bradley Jordan of Peachtree Entertainment to the podcast. How have you been doing today, Bradley?
Doing great. Thanks, guys.
I got to say, Bradley, you are somewhat of a mystery as there's not much information out there about you. However, there are a ton of interviews where country music artists mention you as being one of the first guys who gave them a chance.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I guess I kind of stay on the down low for the most part.
Nice. Well, before we jump into your background, Bradley, can you give us a quick overview of what you and Peachtree Entertainment do for your audience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a concert promoter, and I think I'm one of the only concerts promoters that I know of, at least in the United States, that grows their own talent. So I usually find guys and just pull them up through the ranks. You know, all these guys that you mentioned, post Peachtree Tavern, they play Eddie's Attic in Decatur, you know, the 165 cap. A dear friend of mine owns that place, and we pull them there first and just see how it does. And then from there, move it to the larger venues and like a spider web, just kind of spread them throughout the Southeast. So there's a handful of guys, like you mentioned, that I work with on the regular. And then there's also guys, as they're routing through, I talk to their agents and pull them in smaller rooms. And then same thing, pull them up to the bigger clubs as they're ready.
Well, that makes all the sense in the world. You can kind of be the architect and bring these guys from the very starting point and kind of shepherd them along. But can you tell me about your background a little bit? You're a Georgia native, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I grew up in Lithonia, Georgia, which is about 20 miles east of Atlanta on I-20. I went to Georgia State University. I got a full golf scholarship to Georgia State and didn't play a lot of golf. I joined the fraternity and had a lot more fun than I should. And it took me about 7 years to get through school. But it was quite the experience. I met some awesome people. And I think that's what really got me into the music business was those guys. I was the social chairman in college for 4 years, throwing parties on a budget that didn't exist, just trying to whatever it took to be able to put on a band party.
Is this where the passion for music came from, or did you have a passion for music growing up, or did you ever play music yourself?
I was fortunate that the town I grew up in was very diverse, all different kinds of folks. And my mom she introduced me to the Beatles and Otis Redding and, you know, even Lionel Richie, acts like that at such a young age. And then my friends were country music fans and other friends were rap fans. And I guess through them, I took what I liked from my mom's influence to my friends' influences and established my passion for music.
That's awesome. Did you ever try playing yourself? Or is that something that you just enjoy listening to that you said, you know what, I'm going to leave it to the professionals?
That's 100% left it to the professionals. I tried, I can't sing at all. Just never had a real drive to play an instrument. Like I said, I played a lot of golf as a kid. I played every sport growing up, and I was always outside and listening to music, but never wanted to play it.
Now, was it just country music and rap that you listened to, or did you get into phases where you like rock and roll, heavy metal, or anything like that?
Absolutely. I love rock and roll. And I was the guy, even though I was kind of a preppy kid, and my friends didn't listen to heavy metal, I did. It was kind of my guilty pleasure. I listened to from pop 80s to pop rock 90s. My taste in music is all over the place.
Oh, nice.
But what about when you were growing up? I mean, what were your plans like in high school? Were you into sports other than golf? I mean, it sounds like you were involved with music all along the way.
I mean, I played baseball, I played football. Baseball was my passion before golf. So I always thought that eventually I was going to be in athletics, if it was as a player or as a manager or something in sports. But I think music took over after college. It's kind of a crazy story how it all happened. So in college, like I said, I was the social chairman, and Chris Cappy and I met as kids. We worked on the golf course together, and heck, I was probably 12 or 13 and he was 15 or 16, and he's Luke Combs' manager now. He and I just hit it off, became best friends in the golf business, and his little brother, Matthew and I played golf every day, but we ended up going to college together. Cappy became my big brother in the fraternity. He was a huge Hootie and the Blowfish fan, and went with him at midnight one night. The Hootie and the Blowfish album was coming out, their second album, and we had to go to Tower Records in Atlanta and stand in line and wait for it to come out. So I wasn't excited about it, but I went with him as a friend. And while he was waiting in line, I was over listening to local music, or in the local section at least. Like, you used to be able to go over there and listen to CDs. And I discovered this white album of Sister Hazel. And while he was in line, I was listening to the Sister Hazel record, and I just fell in love with the music. And he bought Hootie and the Blowfish, and I bought Sister Hazel. And I think for 24 hours we listened to Hootie and the Blowfish, and then eventually we got into the Sister Hazel record like the next day, and we both fell in love with Sister Hazel and saw they were coming to Atlanta. And we went to go see them. There was 8 people there watching them. I remember the lead singer had long hair and an Air Supply Rules shirt on, and we made friends with the band afterwards. And we ended up bringing them to play at the Chameleon Club, which was a bar in Buckhead on Peachtree Road.
Oh, wow. What's right there in Buckhead right now?
Well, that's what I was going to tell you. So Chameleon Club eventually became Peachtree Tavern.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Right underneath Moondogs. So Chris Cappy worked the door of the Chameleon Club. He was a bouncer there. And I worked at the golf course, and I gave all the bartenders there free golf. So I met the owner and everybody there, and they let me in for practically any show. And it was an all-genre club. And we ended up getting Sister Hazel to play there. We just really promoted it, told everybody at Georgia State, all the fraternity and sororities, to come out. And we ended up selling the show out. And it wasn't for money. It was just to get people there to see this band that we love. And that's what got me into promoting shows. So Cappy, fast forward, ends up going to work for Sister Hazel's manager, Andy Levine. And they ended up starting the rock boats, doing all the big cruises. And Cappy stayed in that rock side of the world, working with Andy and Six Man. And I bought the Chameleon Club. It closed in 2009. And then it became 5 other bars between 2009 and 2002. And eventually I saved up enough money to put down a small down payment and buy the business. And that's what started Peachtree Tavern.
Man, that's an awesome story. And that same theme, from everyone else we've talked to, has kind of been the same. Like, they all started off from a place of passion. Like, hey, they just wanted to share something with other people that they thought was really cool. And then it kind of just took off from there. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds like all of this really got going during your college days. So it sounded like this was something you were kind of thinking about, but did you plan it? Like, what'd you major in college?
To be honest with you, I took Japanese for 3 years. 4 years.
Okay.
And I was going to be an international business major, but I was scared to death to take calculus. So I knew I wouldn't do well. I ended up changing my major. The Japanese, I was never fluent. I was really good at it, but I wasn't fluent. But I ended up changing my major to political science. I played golf a lot with a political science professor. So that's where I went.
Okay. So what'd you do after college? What was the time period like between college and actually buying the Chameleon Club and changing it to Peachtree Tavern?
Well, I still had the dreams of playing professional golf. So I played golf for years, whatever I could play in any event, if it was gambling or whatever was going on. And then I ended up going to work for my sponsor. His name was Jackson, and he owned a copier company. And I sold copy machines for over a year and did very well. And that's where I got the money to put down on Peachtree Tavern.
Oh, nice.
So what year was this that you decided that you wanted to buy Peachtree Tavern? And what was kind of that motivation behind that? Was it that you wanted to bring live acts here, or
Yeah.
were you just really into wanting to own a bar as well?
Well, yeah, I think I was so passionate about music because of the Sister Hazel thing. And I missed Communion Club. Communion Club was my place to hang out all through college. And it was, like I said, all genres of music. And that's what I wanted to bring back. So when I opened and started Peachtree Tavern, it was all genres. It wasn't just country. That was in 2002. And like you said, I was just passionate about music and the project. And it never was really about money. The place ended up making money and I was able to pay my bills. But for the first year I was there, I didn't put a dime in my pocket. It was just working, selling copy machines and practically working 20 hours a day, trying to just make that place happen.
So you were working part-time selling copy machines as well as running the bar?
I was working full-time selling copy machines and running the bar.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, like I said, I was only sleeping about 4 hours a night.
Oh my gosh.
But people don't realize that, especially in a live music venue, the bar is like 3 full-time jobs. It's booking the bands, it's promoting the bands, and then there's the everyday running of the bar. So it's a full-time job. So basically I was working 2 full-time jobs.
And were you bartending and doing everything in there?
No, I wasn't bartending. Luckily, I had a business partner, the guy who owned Hole in the Wall, Amir and Very Poor, one of my best friends to this day. I love him. Amir had all the experience from Hole in the Wall, and he would come over and do all the ordering day to day, all the stuff that I didn't want to do. And he was great at it. And that freed me up to let me research talent and book bands and promote the band. So we had 2 completely different jobs, but we're great partners all those years.
That's fascinating because most people that I know that own a bar, they're behind the bar and they're working it
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, I couldn't get behind the bar because otherwise I wouldn't charge anybody for anything. So they wouldn't allow me behind the bar. The bartenders wouldn't allow me behind the bar.
That's great. Like a good cop, bad cop dynamic.
Exactly.
There.
Exactly.
Well, I really like what you said about selling the copiers and everything. It reminds me of, I don't know if you've read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad stuff from Robert Kiyosaki, but that's basically how he started as well. He's selling copy machines full time. He started investing in real estate and stuff after that.
Yeah, I think there's times where I wished I would have invested in real estate after that. But then actually I did. From Peachtree Tavern, I did put money into real estate, but that was right when that 2008 thing happened. And I wish I didn't invest money in real estate.
So, Bradley, tell us some more about those years running the bar, because it was several years that bar was open. Tell us about how that went or how you view the phases of the history.
Well, the first year was really tough just because, like I said, it was 5 different bars in between 2009 when Communion Club closed and 2002 when we started. So people were used to that place being the crummy place underneath Moondogs. You know, Moondogs was always so popular. Hole in the Wall was always so popular. We were just kind of the black sheep. And it took a long time to start building a reputation. And I think that was just me going to fraternities and Georgia Tech and Georgia State and listening to them and what they wanted and booking the bands and the acts that they wanted to see. And we really hit a spark. It's more than a spark. We went on fire. In 2004, my old friend Jeff Francoeur made it to the big leagues playing for the Braves. And man, he brought all the Braves players in and I made friends with them. And it turned from just the Braves or whoever was playing the Braves. When they were in town, they came. So we were like the home of Major League Baseball in Atlanta. And the Braves players being there on a Monday night for karaoke turned into weekend numbers. It'd be packed out. It was the place to be. People wanted to be around these baseball players.
Bradley, now that you say that, I distinctly remember my wife now, but she was my girlfriend at the time. We were at Peachtree Tavern. She's a huge Braves fan, and she's normally very introverted, but when she saw the Braves come in, she fanned out. And we met Jason Hayward, Freddie Freeman, Dan Ugla, and man, it was somebody else. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think the Braves knew that they were there to have a good time, and I wouldn't let people take pictures or sign autographs. I just basically would tell people, hey, these guys are here tonight just to have a good time. Let's not drive them crazy with stuff. And They still would, of course, take pictures and stuff, but I was always there to help shut it down if it needed to be. And, some of these guys like Ugla and Kelly Johnson met his wife at Peachtree Tavern. Chris Medlin married my bartender. And there was a lot of guys that met their wives at Peachtree Tavern. So this was really cool.
That's awesome. So I was listening to Cole Swindell do an Ask Me Anything on his Instagram a couple weeks ago, and he was asked what his favorite venues were to play. And he actually mentioned Peachtree Tavern as having a significant place in his heart. When did you realize that your venue was booking acts that were going to have a massive success?
Cole's great. I love him to this day. We're still really close friends. Luke Bryan was the first one. Before he had a lot of fans, he was very popular. He was a Sigma Chi at Georgia Southern and played there, and everybody at Georgia Southern loved him. And I had bartenders that graduated from Georgia Southern and came to work at Peachtree Tavern, and they would talk about Luke. And I'd bring Luke in and stand out front. He's just playing the show, and I'm standing out front giving out free drink cards to people, telling them, hey, this guy is awesome. He's the next big thing in music. And this is basically giving free drinks to the people in line at Moondogs. And they would just throw the drink tickets on the ground. But he had so much charisma, just charming and fun to watch on stage, that he grew in Atlanta to be where he could sell us out. And I think he was the first act that really could sell out Peachtree Tavern on a regular basis. It was just so fun watching his climb to fame. I think 2007 is when he released his first single, and that was just a fun year, seeing one of our own guys grow up. And Cole Swindell used to come in and open for Luke. I used to call him the Dirks Bentley cover band. He would play all these Dirks Bentley songs with him and his guitarist, Burke, and it was just fun. I think Cole just gradually over time got better and better and better. He moved to Nashville, became a great songwriter, and Luke took him out actually as his merch guy. He was selling Luke's T-shirts out on the road and writing songs, and that was his place to play in Atlanta. And he, like Luke, became popular at first playing covers and then playing his original stuff, and got a fan base going. And what a lot of people don't know is Luke Bryan had a show in Atlanta, and Florida Georgia Line was the first of 3 acts, and Thompson Square was the direct support act. And Thompson Square got sick, and that opened up a spot. So they moved Florida Georgia Line, who was on fire already, and they put Cole on that first of 3 opening spot. And I think he got to do 4 or 6 shows as that opener, and that really jump-started his career. But for Cole to be able to play in Atlanta as like the Peachtree Tavern guy, and now he's opening a show at Lakewood Amphitheater, it was one of the most fun nights I can remember.
I may have been at that show. I'm trying to remember. Chris and I are big fans of Luke and Cole, and we both saw Luke on his early farm tours. And I remember he took Cole Swindell out for like 3 years. He was like, this is the new big guy. And I think he really owes Luke a lot for, bringing him up like that. But somebody told me Florida Georgia Line did their album release party. Was that at Peachtree Tavern or was that at Eddie's Attic?
Cole did his album release a couple of times, and he did his showcase, and I think it was 2013 to get a record deal. But Florida Georgia Line did play Peachtree Tavern. The first time they played there was with Chase Rice. It was a co-headline show, and we sold 4 tickets.
Oh my gosh.
And then Florida Georgia Line came back with Cadillac Black, which eventually became Cadillac 3. They changed their name to Cadillac 3, and we sold 16 tickets to that one. So Florida Georgia Line definitely played there in the very beginning.
Well, it's funny how all these stories, they somehow make their way back to Peachtree Tavern. All these artists, it's obviously been a really great place for a lot of people. But speaking about Peachtree Tavern, do you want to share any crazy stories that happened over the years?
I mean, there's just so many, and there's so many I probably wouldn't want to talk about. Just the things that I've seen there that would oh my goodness, is this real? This is real life? The most fun times I can remember are definitely the times with Luke and Cole and Craig Campbell and, Brantley Gilbert played there a lot of times. And we just had some really good nights, just fun. And I think the most fun is as they grow. These guys all played there before they had any artist management or agents or anything. And that's when I was like, man, I have an ear for country music. I need to just keep booking country stuff. And slowly over time, it became where Peachtree Tavern was just mostly a country music venue. But we had a blast. I definitely miss a lot of those times. Like I said, mostly the times just watching these guys grow. And that's still to this day the fun thing about this business is taking somebody who may not have a lot of fans right now, but you see the potential in them, just watching them grow into a superstar.
I think that's so cool. And I remember when you booked Chase Rice for a show, I listened to his music and I was like, man, this guy is going places. This guy is going to be a big success. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make that show. I think I was doing something, but I still kick myself that I did not go to the show with Chase Rice at the Peachtree Tavern right before he put his big single out.
Yeah, Chase played there several times, and he's one of those guys that he was an athlete, and for whatever reason he started to do country music, but he wasn't born with all this God-given gift to sing. Or he's a great guy and he's a fun guy to be around, but he just truly worked his butt off to get there. And it's one of those things where it's like the cliche, if you work hard enough, you'll get there. And Chase is living proof of that. I mean, he worked his tail off, and that's why he's where he is. And I still get to promote his shows.
What was the financial risk that you're taking bringing these guys that you thought might have talent but didn't really have that big of a name? And were you having to book them hotel rooms, or were they just coming and saying, we'll play for basically free? What was that looking like?
Well, yeah, I think all those guys that we're talking about were pretty much coming in just playing for whatever the door was. They never put on like, hey, you have a big guarantee. Now, sure, there was a lot of shows where we were booking guys who already had names for themselves. And of course, Peachtree Tavern, you could only legally slam in about 400 or 500 people. Of course, you were there probably some nights we had more than that, but
Wow, I would not have guessed that many. That place was packed though all the time.
yeah, well, those Wednesday nights would get out of hand sometimes. But we would basically give these artists the doors, whatever we collected at the door. But there was a lot of nights where we had a huge guarantee we had to pay for somebody, and people didn't buy tickets. And especially in those days in Buckhead, everywhere to get in was pretty much free. To get in Peachtree Tavern, sometimes it was $12, $15 for some of these acts. And a lot of college kids couldn't afford it. So luckily, from the baseball players making the place so popular, on the off nights, we would make money and then sometimes give it away on the weekends. So that gave my business partner fits. But in the long run, we were able to pay our bills and, of course, have a good time.
Well, that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about the time period in which you realized, hey, I think I have an ear for this, and you moved from the bar and got more invested in Peachtree Entertainment?
Peachtree Tavern, you could only put 450, 500 people in there, and that's slamming them in there. And once the artist outgrew it, it was, hey, have a nice life. I'll see you down the road at a concert, and we would, be friends, but I couldn't really work with them anymore. So that was frustrating. So eventually I was drinking too much. I was having way too much fun at Peachtree Tavern. So I completely just said, I'm not going to drink anymore. I had a daughter. At this time, my daughter was about 4 years old, and she's the world to me. She's amazing. And I decided that I was going to give up that lifestyle, get out of that business before it killed me, and move on to promoting bigger concerts. So I sold it, and it was a rough time for me. And then I started Peachtree Entertainment using guys like John Langston and Jordan Rager and Travis Denning and Cole Taylor, and Sam Hunt was one of the first guys.
That's really cool. And I think it's been a couple things since you sold it, but it definitely hasn't had that same magic spark that it did.
I went back and did a show. The first people that bought it, it was the guys that owned some bars in Athens and also a bar in Buckhead. But they called it the Southern Club and gave it the place a facelift, made it beautiful, but it completely changed the concept. I did 1 or 2 shows there as Peachtree Entertainment and had some success, but I think that bar was only open about 6 months. And now, from what I understand, it's like a sushi bar.
Yeah, I remember Southern Club. It wasn't the same. And then they turned it into the sushi place, and no more live music there. And that's one of the things I'm really missing about Buckhead and Atlanta. There's really not too many other great bars in Buckhead for live music. I mean, we have some others around, but nobody was booking the kind of talent that you guys were on a regular basis. Especially one of our cover band favorites, Velcro Pygmies, near and dear to our hearts. Would play there all
Yes.
the time.
Yeah, I love those guys. I still talk to Cam, the lead singer, all the time. He's a good friend of mine and the greatest rock and roll force ever assembled in the history of the world, what I used to call him.
We've seen them quite a bit. And I remember one of the last times they were playing there. I remember I was talking to Cameron, the lead singer, and I was like, "Hey man, when are you guys going to play Atlanta again?" And he's like, "Man, I don't think we're going to be playing Atlanta for the foreseeable future because Peachtree Tavern is going to be sold." And that's what it was. They have not played in Atlanta virtually at all since you closed the Peachtree Tavern. They've had a couple of shows here and there on like special occasions, but there have been years where they have not played Atlanta.
They're so fun to watch. Anytime I get a chance to see them, I do. I love those guys, and they're always a fun time.
Do you have any regrets about closing the bar? And what do you miss about that? And what do you not miss?
Well, no, I don't have any regrets. Like I said, I drank too much. It took over my life where I had to just take a break. I quit drinking. I haven't had a drink in 7 years. I gave my life back to God and grateful to have another chance and just wanted to really focus on my daughter. So I don't miss that business at all. But I do miss the times we had, some great stories and the relationships I had. And I still have some really dear friends that I met through Peachtree Tavern, but I don't miss being in the bar business.
Congratulations on that. 7 years is certainly a long time.
Thank you so much for listening to the show today. We hope you guys enjoyed the episode. It was definitely a blast from the past for us, taking us back to the days of Peachtree Tavern on Wednesdays. Make sure to catch part 2, where Bradley tells us how Peachtree Tavern was a springboard for him to launch a full-blown concert promotion company and how he helped Luke Combs in the beginning of his career. You do not want to miss it. Make sure you click to subscribe to the show with your podcast provider, and please consider leaving us a 5-star review. We would really appreciate it. Also, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter so you can stay up to date with everything we do. All links can be found at peopledownsouth.com.
And if you happen to know anyone personally who you think we should interview for the podcast, we'd love an introduction. Email us at team@peopledownsouth.com. And as always, the views and opinions expressed by our guests on the podcast are theirs and do not necessarily reflect our own.
We are your hosts, Mark and Chris, and you have been listening to the People Down South podcast.
See y'all next time.
See y'all next time.
See y'all next time.
See y'all next time. See y'all next time.
See y'all next time.
See y'all next time.